been a few months since I did an upload. It sounds like they're killing each other, but they're not. They're just playing. But a few months ago, I did some changes to my Google account and messed up my AdSense, so I haven't had money for projects. And but I thought I'd go ahead and explain that a little bit, and at the same time let you know that I finally received an order and I'll be building one of these. This was purchased by the customer and sent to me directly from Missouri Wind and Solar, but the salesman said that the shaft was about 4 inches long, which would have been great, but it looks like the same size shaft they had the last time. But if you saw my earlier videos where I was talking about how sloppy the threads were, that is changed. These are that's a grade A thread now. There's no slop in that at all, which is excellent. But the stainless steel nut that I make for that goes the level at the top of this down to just above the face of this. But that's how easy it is to turn. That's nice. During the time that I haven't been making projects, my garage, my shop has become a storage bin. I've got to clean up this mess. Yep. And they're not going to help. I've already asked them and they just refuse. So I'll show you the differences on what I do for myself and what I do for somebody else. So I don't mind building mine with weaknesses, because I'm kind of looking for the weaknesses, and that way I know how to improve on it. So we're starting off with the base. This is what I use for mine. You notice this thing is only about 4 inches long. It's got 3 bolts that clamp down on whatever size mast you've got, up to 2 1/4, I think is what this is. So it'll go down to like a 1.5 inch pipe you'd use for fence, or all the way up to a 2 inch diameter pipe, and it just clamps in place. You know, screw in all 3 and it clamps to the bar, and then you run the nuts up there and lock it, and that keeps these from coming back out. But on one that I'm building for somebody else, I want to make sure that it's not going to blow off the top of the pole. So this is how I'd make it for you if you wanted one. Now that is 8 inches long. It has 6 bolts. It's the same thing. It's a heavy tube. It's got each one of those holes equally spaced, and it's drilled and tapped to be 3/8 16, and I use a grade 8 bolt that goes into that hole. It doesn't necessarily have to be grade 8 for this, because the material here is not grade 8, but the end of it is going to be pinching against the whatever size mast is inside that tube, and I don't want that to mushroom out. So grade 8 is what I want to use on that. If you have a Freedom 2 and you want one of these bases, I can build you one. There's a Freedom 1 or Freedom 2. Both of them have the same bolt pattern. So I can build you a base just like this one for about 60 bucks. When you have a base like this and you're using it with the Freedom 2 or the Freedom PMA, you have to have these spacers that stand it off. The mounting holes are not. The mounting holes on these don't go past the face of that, so you have to have a little spacer on that. And I like them to be about 1.5 inches long. Those are made from this aluminum tubing. It's a 1-inch OD and a 7/16 ID. So it's a pretty close fit to the 3/8 diameter bolts that go all the way through that. Each one of these spacers will cost you $2. Okay, now you have your base and you have your spacers. So the next thing on the list, after you buy your own Freedom 2 or Freedom PMA, then the next thing I machine is a tiny little spacer. Now this goes on, whoop, almost dropped it. This goes on to the shaft that comes out the front of the PMA before the tube goes in place. And all that does is prevent the tube from bumping into the front of the PMA when it's assembled. The way this is made, there's a shoulder inside. I don't know if you can see inside there, but there's the smooth part right here is 17 millimeter, which fits exactly on that shaft. And the threads that are inside there are cut to fit the threads of the Freedom 2 and the Freedom PMA, at least until they change that. Now this tube is going to cost you, if this is what you need, it's going to cost you about $175. I may be flexible on that depending on the cost of materials, but there's a lot of time and effort goes into that. Stainless steel is not cheap, and neither is a nice straight aluminum tube. That screws right on top. If the turbine always turns to the right, it keeps itself tight. Now that may be all you need. This may be the beginnings of what you need to make your own VAWT. And there's a lot of other designs. I've seen a wide variety of different ideas, and all of them are good. It just depends on where you are, how much wind you get, how fast you need the thing to turn. But it's up to you if you want to build something else. This is a good starting point. But to do the Stealth VAWT, we have more parts. This is, you have a 2-inch locking collar. Now this is bought just like that. It's a 2-inch locking collar. I buy it, but it doesn't have the holes in there for fastening something else to it. So I've got 4 equally spaced. I believe that's 1032, and I'm using stainless steel hex cap screws to hold that in place. Now this is set up for 12 blades. This is the centerpiece for what all the blades attach to this, but I would expect that to be another I'd say $30. You need 2 of them for a Stealth VAWT. Here's another thing I do for a customer that I didn't do for myself. This is a new blade I'm working on. This is an old one. This section right here is the weakest point of the blade. This is what attaches to that center ring This is what gets all the force put on it when the wind catches the blade. So that is a weak spot. So on the new ones that I'm making for the customer, I've made some of these little pieces right here, and that attaches right onto the blade like this. What that looks like after it's all mounted together is like this. This is a new blade. Both ends have that little bracket there, and that should add a lot of strength to this weak point. This is also tied together. This is where it's attached to the mounting ring. This is where the wire goes through. Perfect. Very nice. Another thing on the new blades is I've added an extra bend. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a 1/4 inch flare out that runs the most of the distance. I mean, this is flat down here and it's flat down here, but that's that little 1/4 inch ridge there helps keep this straight. Every bend you put in this adds rigidity. The bottom pieces, the bottom and top, are slightly thicker material. The stuff in the middle is very thin, and that's what keeps this whole thing so light. Another thing to keep in mind when buying one of these, this takes 4 cans like this to paint it. They're $20 a piece. Well, $18, $19 plus tax, so $20 a piece. But you got to use the self-etching primer or it won't bond to the aluminum. $20 a can, but it works. Now, I have thought about buying this by the gallon, but it's a 2-part. So you got the primer itself, and then the chemical that makes it etch into the aluminum. And I think the price, the 2-part set, was like $450 for a gallon. 2 gallons, because you got 1 gallon of one thing and another gallon of the primer itself, and then you have to have the way to clean your cup gun, and you have to have really need a place to set all these up at one time and spray them all at one time and then let them dry at one time. And I can only do these one at a time because I don't have the space. Or I do them in pieces in that little frame you saw on the first one that I made. But, yep. Expensive stuff. When you're watching a 27-minute video or whatever it was whenever I did my first Stealth VAWT assembly video, you have no idea how long this actually takes. So each one of these blades, from making all the different components, from cutting it, making the components, bending it into shape, I'm not including the primer. That's almost 3 hours worth of work on each blade. So you've got 12 of those. And then they have to be adjusted, tweaked a little bit to make sure they all end up being the same size where they fit exactly onto that. I know if I had a CNC, if I had some other equipment, I could whip it out a little bit quicker than this. But what I have is what I have, and this is what I use. This is how it's done. So even after I've got 3 more blades to put in place, and then I have to measure the distance between each one of the tips, divide that by 12, figure out what the spacing's supposed to be, so whenever I put the wire through here, I can lock them into place exactly where they're supposed to be, where the outside edges are exactly the same distance apart. And that's the critical part. This is not all that difficult to work, but it's kind of hard on this old man. I don't know if you've noticed it, but so this is what a regular shoulder on me looks like. This one is what a shoulder looks like with a tumor. Tumor's been there about almost 30 years now. It's grown a little bit. It hurts, it aches, but it's not worth getting surgery over, and I can't afford it anyway, so I live with it, and I hope you don't mind looking at it. These are stainless steel, 1032 stainless steel with a built-in lock washer on it. The bolts are 1032 stainless steel as well. On the ones I built for myself, those were plated screws, and they're already rusty. But when I build this for somebody, I want you to be able to put it on your roof and forget about it for years. I'm hoping this will burn out before this gives you trouble. Let me know. Let's say 5 or 10 years down the road, something happens, a few of the blades get broke, maybe it's a hailstorm, you got softball size hail, just beats the crap out of it. Bring it back to me, give me a few weeks, I'll fix it. Yep. I don't want to snug those down yet because I still have the adjustments to do. So they're all semi-loose. They're just on there. That's all 12 blades. Now, Now I've got to adjust them out and get the wire in place. So even this part takes time. So we want to make sure there's a hole that goes through these, and we'll make sure those are go across the blade and not with it. Wouldn't take. Now this cap that's on here, that is a steel cap, has plating on it. On my old ones, it rusted, so I went ahead and sprayed it with primer along. And the battery just died. Luckily, I have more batteries. Let's see. Go ahead and charge the one I'm just pulling out of it. My little red light's on, so now I have 12 volts. Hang on a second. Oops, wrong hole. Wrong hole, wrong hole. There we go. Okay, green lights. And the charger. And there's the battery that just came out of the. There we go. That's charging. Alright, back to work. Okay, I think I was saying this cap is steel with like a chrome plating, but it rusts fairly quick, so I went ahead and shot that with a little bit of primer. Hopefully that stays gray for a while. Once it's 30 feet up in the air, nobody's going to know the difference. Except for me and you now. Don't tell anybody else, so just keep it our secret. And on and on. Okay, these are ready to go, and I figure the length of the wire is going to be 57 inches, and this is stainless steel jewelry wire. It's not that flimsy stuff I used the first time. This is pretty stout stuff. I mean, it's not really super rigid and can't make a drill bit out of it, but if you could, then it wouldn't work for this because I wouldn't be able to bend it. It'd be too stiff for that. But this will feed around through there, and then I have to measure. I've already measured all of these points, and it comes out to 200.5 millimeters between each point. So that's what I have to measure it out at, and then I'll lock each one in place with the Allen wrench. It's going to start anywhere, but wire is a little bit unruly until you really get going on it. I know you're going to see a little bit of an overlap, but you want that because the wires overlap each other inside of one of the holes, and that's kind of what locks the circle in place. So just like that. I'm going to start on that side, lock that one down, and then start measuring back around this way. And I can take the slack out of each one of the wires as I go. What I mean by take out the slack a little bit, I mean, well, once your screw is tight, kind of try and straighten up the stainless wire a little bit between the 2 points. And just try and lock it in place at the right spot. It's only after I get these all equal when I tighten down those other bolts. Ugh. This isn't going to be fun. Alright, see where we are. It's 200. Let's see if I can do this. A little bit more. If I do too many of these, I'm going to have to figure out some way to clamp this. That's it right there. They're all very close. You know, I've had a lot of people ask me, or actually tell me, that I should connect these together with straps. You know, they hadn't really said how wide the straps have to be, but they said straps. But I look at it like, whoops, can't talk and measure at the same time. Look at it like fluid dynamics. Look at it like water. You have this water and air, not a whole lot different. It flows, except air's a lot thinner than water. But when you have a current moving, like let's say this is 2 stones, and water is flowing between these 2 stones without a whole lot of trouble. You put a stick through the middle of that, what happens? It interrupts the flow a little bit, and the water might tend to go on the other side of the 2 stones. So by using the wire, it doesn't put up a whole lot of resistance. So now I realize that this thing is turning this way, and the air that's blowing in here doesn't go in very far because it has to So that's what we want. We want the wind to move around the side that doesn't have the cup and catch in the cup side. But yeah, that's why I don't want to use straps here. Now, if you buy one of these, you're welcome to modify it in any way you want to. Don't expect me to fix it when it breaks, but you can put the straps in between if you want. I like the wire. This is stainless steel wire. There's a stainless steel coupling nut, a stainless steel set screw, and a stainless steel quarter 20 bolt that holds that that coupling nut to the blade. So with aluminum and stainless steel. Now all I have to do is tighten up 48 bolts and we'll be done. There's one. There's two. I don't think you need to see the rest. Yeah, I bought one of these a few years ago for displaying a turbine if I ever made one that I could display in my store for sale. I haven't had the money to build one just for display, and my wife won't let me borrow it. So the base has been sitting in storage for a while, so I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to put the turbine I just finished building for my customer in Arkansas, and I'm going to set that up in the store so people can look at it until the man can come and get it. So I appreciate you letting me display it until you come and get it, and I will miss it when it's gone. But this runs $64.95 plus the shipping, and if I was to build, see if I can get a bigger picture. If I was to build one of these, I want it to be probably 6 foot square, and that way it would accommodate like a 10-foot mast. And that's something I'll work on in a future project, I hope. But this is what I've got, and if you want one, then that's the place where you can get it. I have it sitting in my newsstand. The newsstand is my business that has been feeding me for the last 20 years. I bought the place back in 1994, and it served me well for quite a few years, and now the internet is killing it. Anything that's in print is now on the internet, and in most cases free. So this business is going out of business. I was hoping that this business of making these turbines would replace it. I don't know that it ever will, and I'm getting a little bit old to be messing around with this. I'm nearing 60, but I'm not dead yet, and if anybody has a desire for one of these, order one. Let me build you one. This one is sitting on top of that base I just showed you on the internet. If I sell it to you, it's going to be about 85 bucks, because 65 plus the shipping, 85 bucks, or somewhere around that. I'm not going to gouge you on that. The base piece that the PMA is mounted to, or he said that was 60. The PMA, if you buy it, it's 430 something plus shipping. If you ship it to yourself, you need to take accurate measurements of the shaft coming out before you order the shaft from me. It's easier if you send it to me and then I make the shaft to fit it, and that way there's no mistakes. And then there's the turbine itself, and in the when I showed you a little while ago in the shop, or actually a couple days ago now, this 1/4 inch bend on this edge that adds a lot of strength, a lot of rigidity to the outside of that blade. I think it looks sharp too. But anyway, the turbine from where it mounts to the shaft, up the center tube, and out to the edges of every blade. Remember I said the blades take about 3 hours on each one, and the parts for this are around $500, and that's including the 4 cans of primer. I'll build one of these for you for $1,200, and that may seem steep. You're welcome to try it on your own. Now if you ordered the whole thing from me, you're looking at now I'm going to go have a cold one and chill with my bitches.
Who'd have thunk it?